It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. I was recently asked to review an article that was sent to me by one of my subscribers, and it's an article by Jorrit Kortink, sorry, and it's called "The Compounding Interest of Smaller Teams." And I can tell you already, I'm going to love it. I am a huge fan of smaller teams. So as long as it doesn't go too haywire, I think we're going to be in complete alignment. Let's see where he goes. He starts with, have you ever wondered why smaller teams feel so much more personal than larger teams, even when they've only been together for a short time? Compounding might have something to do with this. Compounding is a term that's often used in investing. It's a principle of underlying the exponential growth of the value of an investment portfolio. Earnings from previous investments are reinvested and are used to generate extra income, sometimes called a hockey stick principle, where an investment grows slowly but starts to speed up over time. This principle also applies to teamwork. Let's pause there for a second. I love that intro and I love the comparison. One of the things that I was fortunate enough to learn later in life that I was able to teach my kids at a younger age was the principle of compounding interest and how it works both against you or for you, depending on which side of the interest balance sheet you're on, right? And we were talking with my son, and he's 18, and we were talking with him about how to invest money. And at the time, recently, savings accounts are, the interest level on savings accounts were at an all-time low. It didn't make sense to just leave your money in savings or to buy a simple CD. What made the most sense was to invest. Now, at the same time, we also realized that, we could potentially be on the brink of a recession by the end of the year. So it was real hard to give him the guidance that he needed financially. But what we wound up coming to terms with was that dividing and conquering was probably going to be the best bet. That investing some money in stocks and diversifying the portfolio and buying some secure bonds and things like that, it was going to be a best opportunity for him to grow financial success. But I think the thing that he didn't realize was how compound interest worked. So I remember our financial advisor going over it with him and told him that, every dollar that he saves at 18 is going to be worth X amount when he retires. And he was floored, he was shocked. But the same thing happens within teams. The small investments that you make in your team to help ensure that they can connect quicker, that they have good work environments, that they understand culture, all of those things are going to be small investments that you make now that are going to have huge dividends. So let's keep going. He goes into psychological safety in teams, and he says, in teamwork, psychological safety is the number one factor related to high performing teams, as shown in Google's Project Aristotle. In his classic book, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, love it, Lencioni, identifies the absence of trust as the most important dysfunction in low performing teams. Psychological safety and trust lead people to voice their concerns, take initiatives, share ideas, and help others. Psychological safety and trust are the foundation of high performing teams. Therefore, when building a team, one of the first things to take care of is psychological safety. But what is rarely mentioned is the effect of team size on the ability to grow psychological safety. Okay, let's pause there. I am a huge fan of psychological safety, huge. So much so that in every one of my Scrum Master and Product Owner classes, one of the first things that I lead in and teach is how to create an environment of psychological safety. I want to walk into a room, even as a trainer, and have people feel like they've known me forever, even if they just met me that day for the first time. I want to formulate ways to establish a comfort level that no other trainer has been able to establish with those individuals. I want to get even the most introvert people laughing and talking and get them out of their shell so that they can have an enjoyable training, but more importantly, so that they can facilitate and learn what they need to do. There's just so many awesome things that we can do, but I think that sometimes we don't look at psychological safety as the pillar or the foundation that these things need to be built upon. All right, let's see where he continues. He talks about smaller team size. That's where he's going next. So he says, imagine you're able to grow your personal connection to one person on your team every week. That increase in personal connections enables sharing of ideas, concerns, and personal histories. At first, you share something small, and a good experience will lead you to build trust, meaning you'll start sharing deeper and more important things later. The team starts to share more, work out ideas, voice concerns, and in the process, they create their own best working environment. That psychological safety, right? That radical candor. On a 5-person team, the cycle time to connect with each team member would be 5 weeks. On a 10-person team, 10 weeks. meaning that in the same amount of time, the smaller team had 2 moments to grow. Taking compounding into account, this means that the smaller team is able to grow their trust and psychological safety at an exponentially quicker rate than a larger team. The smaller team can connect and grow quicker, and it can use that connection to grow even faster in the future. I love this analogy. This is so important. If it takes 2 weeks for one team and 10 weeks for another team, you could see what's happening there, and it's based on team size. If you have the right team dynamics and you have the people organized around common goals and you have a good T shaped cross functional team, it shouldn't be that difficult for them to come together and come to terms and get to know each other. But the Tubman model is tricky. Forming, storming, norming, performing is not always easy. And remember, most teams stop at norming. Only 10% or so make it to actual high performing. And that's not because they are bad at what they do. It's just because all the outside things that affect them, from leadership to breaking them up and making additional teams to piling on work because they're doing a good job. There's just a lot of things that factor into that. And I guess where he goes in conclusion, he says, I've always been a fan of smaller teams. Going back in my memory, my favorite teams to work with have always been the smaller ones, exactly because of how much simpler it is to create personal connections with my friends. My personal preference is smaller teams, and it's also backed up by research. But up until now, I've never been able to put my finger on why this is exactly true. Compounding might be part of the answer. Here's what I know. I appreciate this article. Jorrit, you did a fantastic job. I'm going to drop a link to his Medium post in the chat or in the bottom there, the comments. But what I can tell you is this is the tip of the iceberg. I believe that in this article, we talk about just a couple of small pieces that we can do to get there. But there are some other things we can do. I mean, psychological safety is great. Small team size is absolutely amazing. But if we're trying to compound interest, we need to go back to the steps that we talked about. We just did a podcast episode recently on the 7 tips, tricks, or techniques to help teams reach, a high performance, to help them get to be high performing, and to help them celebrate and understand who they are. And what I can tell you is over time, teams will get better or teams will get worse. Over time, people will improve and work together, or people decide that they can't work together and move on. And much like any relationship, we have friends that come and go, we have people that we care about who come and go, and we have teams and jobs that come and go. The goal is to celebrate the good times, to make the good times more plentiful than the bad times, and to make certain that we're doing all we can to help uplift others so that we can be on a winning end of that compounding interest. That's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.